Tonight we saw against Chelsea at the weekend, it looks like you got your mojo back.
Who? Offside. Really? Yeah. It was a VAR and that offside. The action was offside.
Generally, that's, I was unaware of that. We hadn't been told that at all.
Your seats were not good.
You think because you didn't take your chances today?
That's part of the game. So sometimes.
No, the reason why you lost.
No, we lost because they scored 3 goals.
I just thought I'd play some Pep funny moments. Welcome back to the Blueprint. Welcome back to We Are the South Stand. It's Thursday, which means it's time for myself and the Sheikh. We were going to do a big reveal, Circle of Life vibes. But
yeah,
little man sleeping.
yeah. You know, he just had like 100 milliliters of milk, which is a lot apparently.
Haaland would be very happy.
Yeah. He's they get along, you know. Maybe they can meet one day. That'd be pretty cool.
Actually, yeah, Haaland's kid must be nearly 1 year old now, right?
Yeah, maybe they could be friends.
Yeah,
the next class of City players, maybe, you know.
Do you know what? I can imagine Haaland is checking his wife's milk, like for the quality. How good is this milk? Like, he's not bulking quick enough. He's not bulking quick enough. Great question for you. Are you a billionaire?
I'm not a billionaire.
No.
But I do okay.
Are you looking for money?
He's about to ask me for tuition or something, you know. Happens all the time.
But it is a Thursday. We haven't done this show for 2 weeks. Last week, by the way, I was just shit. I was just all over the gaff with hay fever, and I kind of did think, with where you were with the bringing home and everything, I thought you're probably going to be more than happy to not do a show. So yeah.
I mean, I appreciate that, but dude, just to. In the future, I always make time for you, man.
Yeah, I appreciate that, but at the same time, you know what? Sometimes it's good for me as well. And if I can find a little excuse, like, oh, do you know what? The Sheikh needs some time off. Like I'm doing a good deed when actually I was just being lazy. But if I'm doing a good deed, I'll do that. But ultimately, last time we spoke, I think the players were about to fly out. With just the transfer window, I think, had just shut. We'd got Cherki, we'd got Reinders, we'd got Ait Nouri. We are now, well, today's the last group game. How have you found the Club World Cup? And actually, not just how have you found it, how have you found it over there as well?
I mean, honestly, I think it's a lot cooler than I anticipated. I've enjoyed the games. I love watching the competitiveness between teams that everyone kind of assumed would roll over. And, you know, the quote-unquote bigger European clubs. I think American fans are much more open and interested in football now than ever before.
Right.
And I think that, you know, proper fans, when you interact with them as a casual fan, it makes you see the magic. It makes you understand the magic, you know? And a lot of these South American fans, you know, I've seen hordes of Palmeiras fans running through the city. It's really cool, man.
I've heard that.
They travel.
Americans have traveled well.
Yeah, they travel really well. And at the same time, I feel like the United States is just such a fledgling nation when it comes to just football fandom. You know, I've seen a lot of criticism towards, you know, U.S. City fans because they don't know the chants or whatnot. I don't really buy into that. It's just if you don't know, you got to start somewhere.
If you don't go to the games. Right, and
there you go.
When you're that far away, like I'll be honest with you. As an example, when a new chant comes out and I go to games, I still have to, like, it takes me a minute to know the words to flipping chants. There's still some chants I don't know every word to, and I go to games. So I think that's a mad one for them not to know the chants is a bit. It's a bit. Come on, man. Like,
yeah, it's like point scoring at the end of the day. How it is, you know, pretty petulant stuff.
Actually, to be fair, the Moroccan fans as well against us, they seemed absolutely quality as well. They
were
seemed unreal.
They were crazy. I was
Yeah.
like, I've never even heard of this club, and here am I, the idiot that's like, who knows about them, and they should have been force,
Yeah.
And I think that's awesome. That's just, I think at the end of the day, the whole point of the Club World Cup is to not only make money but to grow the game, right? And I think that is happening, and I think all things aside, that's pretty cool.
And there has been, so a prime example is I think one of the opening games was Bayern beat Auckland 10-0, right? But then correct me if I'm wrong, but the other night Auckland drew 1-1 with who was it they drew 1-1 with? It was someone, it was a decent European team. It wasn't Dortmund. Who was it? Was it Dortmund? Who was it that Auckland drew 1-1 with?
I have no idea. I honestly didn't watch that game.
Boca. Sorry, it was Boca Juniors. That's it. Boca.
Oh.
Yeah. So there's little stories. PSG getting beat 1-0. So
right.
Stories there. So yeah, there's stories there. Like every World Cup, when you go into a World Cup and there's always this one team that no one talks about. But I mean, Morocco is an example. In the last World Cup, got to the semis. No one ever expected that, but good things like that. And how have you found City so far?
I'm loving it, man. I think it's super cool. I love that we're seeing, the new guys definitely got some minutes. I love that we're seeing a lot of changes.
Yeah.
I just, I've seen a couple of tweets about this and people talking about it casually, but the energy seems different. We've talked about it in the show as well. I think Colo said something about how the players currently in the squad might have seen him play, so the camaraderie is different. They're not just like some uppity managers that come in. It's really cool, and I think to get these guys in early before the Club World Cup, go on a trip, be involved in preseason, like the full preseason.
Yeah,
you can see the camaraderie and chemistry is building organically, and I think that's so important.
Do you know what? I really do think it is as well. And I've said this recently on a few shows, and anyone that speaks Steve, go and ask Steve, right? Last summer, before the season started, I was hearing off of Steve, because last summer Steve was around the club quite a lot, and he was kind of saying when he goes there, the energy seems a bit different, and he was hearing off people also that worked within the club that the energy seemed a bit off, right? Realistically, there's probably a good chance it was to do with the position Pep was in at the time, right? So I think that is so important, especially when you have new players coming into the team, right? And even more so when it's a season where you need to bounce back. It does remind me of that. There seems to be a lot of similarities to this summer to Pep's second summer. So not Pep's first summer when he arrived, but only the summer after we finished third. And after we needed, like Pep realised what he needed, and we had a bit of a rebuild. And, that Shark team got formed with Walker and Mendy and whatever, and everything seemed...
The fullback summer, basically.
Yeah, but the atmosphere around the whole group. And I'll be honest with you as well, I think one of the massive ones is the coaches coming in. I think these new coaches, and I think the other day it came out that a few of the players have said they were a bit bewildered last year at why
communication.
And again, we've got we've got Colo, we've got Linders, and we've got even, I can't remember the name of the set piece guy, but that's been very apparent to me in these two games so far. I'm not saying our set pieces are perfect, but it seems like we have a plan with set pieces now. That it's not just everyone get in the box and we're going to try and lump it in. There seems to be a plan there, even on indirect free kicks. James French, thank you. There seems to be a plan. So yeah, I think the mood's good. Who has been your standouts from the two games so far? I know we've got a very limited amount of kind of, sample size, but...
I think an obvious shout are the new guys. I think Ait Nouri, he kind of blew my mind, to be honest. Guy was everywhere. Cherki obviously had a very good second cameo in the second game. First game was a little quieter, but totally
out of
fine.
position, maybe.
Yeah. And then I think the first game, Reinders was as advertised. He is the starting 8. That is his spot.
Okay. Right. Yeah. So I was going to ask you because for me, I would honestly say first game, although he didn't get man of the match, for me, Reinders definitely man of the match. Second game, again, he didn't get man of the match, but for me, Ait Nouri was probably the man of the match. I was going to say out of the two, which had the better game, but what you answered there, I think you're probably right that with Reinders, we know what we're going to get with him. And it was just a case of, for those that don't know what you're going to get, that game kind of showed you. And we have to say, he was playing a lone six. It was against a bit of a lower team, but to play that role, you will see more of him. But I do agree that Ait Nouri won, because although we're happy to get a left back, there's probably still some of us, like me a little bit, that are like, what am I going to get out of this guy? And seeing it, it was just beautiful to watch. It really was.
Yeah. It's like we have this, City fans love to joke that we haven't had a left back, like a proper, left back, textbook definition, I guess. And we've had Cancelo, we've had Zinchenko, we've had Fabian Delph. We tried to sign Benjamin Mendy, but that didn't work out. So, there's validity in saying that the last left backs we had were, Kolarov and Clichy.
Yeah, I think the Mendy one, because even when we say, Mendy was okay, but I think Mendy was very good when he played, but he played so little. And I think we even overtalk how good he was, because he did play so little. I've said before, I think if we got more game time out of Mendy, because whenever Mendy did play with Aguero, they looked unbelievable together, but they just didn't play with each other enough But I think with Ait Nouri, I'm more excited about him than I was Mendy, put it that way. After watching him one game, he just looks and maybe it is a little bit because I'm not used to seeing an actual left back.
Yeah,
maybe that is.
I think the reason why I would agree with you, to be honest, because I feel like Mendy, a lot of hype came from how Monaco was that season prior. Monaco was nasty. That entire team got gutted after that season. Whereas Ait Nouri is coming from Wolves, which is, we're very familiar with. It feels like we buy a player from Wolves every summer, And Ait Nouri specifically, just from a technical skill set, Mendy was a little like Kyle Walker in the sense that he's a pace and power type of player. They're driving up the flank, he's overlapping, he's whipping crosses in. Ait Nouri he's basically I feel like he can play anywhere, His technical ability is way beyond what I had seen in the past and what I had anticipated. And if you look at an interview that he did, they recently asked him about his performance in the game, and he said, Pep Guardiola told me to play without pressure, drive with the ball, cross into the box. I try to respect the advice he gives. It was freedom. I'm very happy to play like this without pressure. I like to drive the ball into the box as part of my game. So for Pep to tell him, like, all this shit that people say about, Pep is restricting his players, he told this new signing to come in and just say, play.
Yeah.
I think that's awesome.
Do you know what? I think there's a few ways I can look at it. I'm getting more and more as a host, I guess, used to doing devil's advocate, and straight away I would say, but will Pep be saying that when he's playing in an away game against Tottenham, right? As an example, right? As opposed to a preseason game. I'm going to say it's a friendly. It's not a friendly because it is in a tournament that we definitely want to win. And by the way, apparently we've already earned 36 million. So we definitely want to keep going in this. So there is that maybe it's slightly, will Pep say the same when we're up against different oppositions? But there's also the fact that maybe we are seeing a Pep that, it's been very different, because Pep's usually had fullbacks. He's having to tell how to be a fullback. Whereas now, he doesn't need to tell Ait Nouri how to be a fullback, because Ait Nouri is a fullback, right? He doesn't need to try and control him. He can say, play with freedom. I just loved his retention of the ball as well. I think that's something that Pep's, I think, spoke about how good he is on the ball in tight spaces. But what I liked is that whenever I thought he was about to lose the ball, he seemed to find an extra yard or an extra reach just to almost recycle the ball and keep the ball moving and get it onto someone else. And that for me is like, Pep doesn't like wingers or doesn't like players full stop, but let alone wingers or fullbacks that go forward and lose the ball. Because if you lose the ball, you're liable to a counter, right? So having a fullback that can go forward with the ball, but when at risk of losing it, still make sure he does not lose it, is perfection in Pep's book, I think. Because it's like, brilliant. I'm excited to see him, really excited. Now, do you want the same on the right-hand side? Do you think Pep does?
Do you mean if I say on the right side, like going into the new season, like throughout the new season, or just like now?
No. Right now, So if we're looking at the City team right now, do you think we still need, like, how important is this right back position and getting an actual right back to you?
I think it's incredibly important. I think it's, especially given how much Ait Nouri has a license to go forward and kind of play with freedom. And then if you think about Guardiola as well, even as a center back, you would assume he has some sort of freedom to go forward. Similar to how maybe Laporte did in some circumstances when he played left center back. We need a right back who kind of has that range of coverage that Walker did. Walker got away with not being maybe offensively producing as a fullback because he covered that entire right-hand side and gave Cancelo or whoever was on the left-hand side full reign to do whatever the hell they wanted.
Because he was a covering defender always.
Exactly.
And we definitely did. I remember we missed that. Whenever Walker was not there, and you could even say, do you know what? You could even say at times this season, in fact, when Walker's pace went and then when Walker went, that all of a sudden we missed it massively. The counters, we were just liable constantly. Yeah. And this is, I think this is a big reason why so many people want to see Kusanov potentially play right back, because he has that range, that pace. But I don't think he's best suited there long term, and I think we're better off now that Ederson is staying, and we potentially don't have to buy a number one keeper. Diogo Costa was quoted at 70 million. Like, that's ridiculous. Is that what it was? Went up 70, did it? Right.
Yeah, I read it somewhere. But if we're gonna take that, and I would say dump that on Newcastle's desk and be like, is this a starting point? Can we at least have a conversation? Right. But I would say, other than right back, departures and right back, depending on who leaves and whatnot, in my head, that's all we need to do. I don't think we need anything else. I think we just need to get rid of some deadwood, and not deadwood, that's kind of harsh, but
but I hear what you're saying. We need to make the squad smaller. We did a big long show on that earlier on where we went through it all and kind of debated it. See, I'm the same as you, right? That for me, I think seeing a left back and an actual left back has made me want an actual right back even more. Also, I look at what Liverpool have done as far as, Robertson's dropping off. They've gone and got a new left back. Trent went. They've already got Conor Bradley, but they went and got Frimpong. They've gone and got Wirtz, and they're still looking at a striker. So for me, it looks like Liverpool are trying to plug every possible hole. Right now, do I think that we could go into next season with the squad as is, and with Núñez on the right, Rico covering on the right, Akanji maybe covering on the right, John Stones maybe covering on the right? Could we go into the season like that, and could we win the league? Of course we could, right? But are the chances more likely if we get an actual right back? 1,000,000%, right?
100%, yeah.
And that's where I am. That it's one of those ones where. And on the Kusanov one, because it's a conversation we have, and I get what people say, that Kusanov, if he was to play as a right back, when we're on the ball, he wouldn't offer much going forward. So we definitely have to maybe change about who we play on the right-hand side. We maybe have to play with a natural winger. But he has got the pace going back, and he does know how to defend, which would allow Ait Nouri to fully have license to do whatever he wants down the left-hand side. Someone mentioned to me before that the last couple recently that Vitor Hayes and Huzanov, have been shadow training at right back. If so, that's great. I'm going to say something now, and please don't take this as my opinion, because I think generally, if you've watched me, my opinion on Hudzinov, I'm a big fan of him, even down to when people are saying he's just an old school defender that crunches people. I actually think he's very comfortable on the ball. I think his passing range is good. His movement, once he does pass the ball, is good. However, I have heard that a few rumbles out of the camp that coaches are a bit uncertain at if Hudzinov can step up to what it takes to be a Man City defender. And I'm just putting it out there.
Wow.
I'm just putting it out there. This is not me. This doesn't mean it's legit, because but I've heard it from more than one person now that Hudzinov might be someone that they're willing to loan out, not sell, loan out. Now, I would worry if we loan him out, because he's come from a fairly good level. Right? He hasn't come from a lower team. I mean, they're not at our level, but I wonder what that means. And by the way, that could have been news that is 2 weeks old, and through training, he's showing a bit more. So we will see. But when we know that we are maybe needing to shrink down this squad a little bit, and there could be something in it. I don't know. There could be, there might not be. We will see. But I'm just putting it out there. Trust me, this is not my take. I don't want this to happen. But I also know that this fan base probably needs to get its head round things, because I know Hudzinov has already become he's a fan favourite. So we will see. Anyone else? Right. So that's the two obvious. Like you said, with Reinders, we're getting exactly what we knew we were going to get. Ait Nouri, phenomenal. Anyone else stood out to you, or anyone else surprised you?
Surprised me. Honestly, I thought Heiss was really good in his first game too. I thought he made a little mistake, but I think it was an unlucky bounce as opposed to more of like a brain fart, or what do you want to call it? Bozo gene, people are calling it.
Do you know what? It was because right. So when I know exactly when you mean, I think there was actually two occasions. I think there was two, maybe bit of lack of confidence, shall we say. One of them I wasn't sure on, and when I mentioned it, someone said, Daps, the bounce was bad. And I thought I saw that. The bounce was bad. The one thing I would say against that is, if you've got someone on your back, right, don't let the ball bounce, right?
Yeah.
It's very simple. Don't let the ball bounce, because that bounce was horrible. But as a centre-back, if you've got someone breathing down your neck like that, head it back to the keeper, put it, I don't know, just don't let that damn ball bounce. And he did let it bounce, but Pep seems key. Oh, someone's just put Rodri starts. So where are you getting this from? Where are you getting this from? Is there a lineup? I'm going to have a quick look. But anyone else, apart from Vitor Hayes? And by the way, Pep seemed to agree with you, because Pep seems quite keen on keeping Vitor Hayes.
I think outside of the new guys, I want to give some love to Manuel Akanji. I thought he was really good against Al Ain. I thought Gundogan has been, maybe our best player out of the entire squad consistently over the first couple of fixtures. And I think Bernardo, I love Bernardo, man. I love how much effort he puts into the game. I love that he just never stops running. And I feel like he is playing with a lot more intensity than what I saw last season. I thought he looked a little tired, but it seems like maybe getting the captainship or captaincy has inspired him, which is pretty cool. But this City X,
no, so apparently it's on City's website. So let's have a look, shall we? That's not it. I do love that everyone's now claiming to be people that they're not all over X. It does help.
So many ITKs, man.
Well, the other thing is, so Reinders is actually on Twitter, isn't he? He's on X, right?
He is, yeah.
Because so many footballers don't seem to be, and so there's so many accounts claiming to be people, I kind of for ages was like, nah, that's not going to be him. So starting 11 is out. Let me share my screen quickly. I'm not looking at it yet as well, by the way. We will look at this together.
Rodri is surprising.
Just surprises me, that one as well.
Yeah.
Right. So we have Ederson in goal, Nunes on the right, Akanji Diaz centre-back partnership. That makes sense with Vardiol coming off, I guess, last game. Apparently, it wasn't anything bad, but it does make sense. Ait Nouri on the left. Rodri, right. So I think we will see this midfield quite a lot next season. Rodri, Reinders, Bernardo, and I'm not against it at all. I think, no Cherki, no Foden. Interesting. No Haaland. All right, second half. Right. Okay, so he hasn't gone full strength from the start.
Yeah.
Right.
It's still a freaking strong lineup, though.
Yeah. Right. So the first thing I'm going to say about this, is I've been saying all week, is there a world where we see Ait Nouri and Doku both on the left-hand side? Because if we do, the other team's probably going to have to put 3 or 4 players on them to keep hold of them, right? Because their dribbling between them is going to be insane.
In the context of this lineup, right? The front three is almost assuredly Marmoush, Doku, and Savinho, right? I would assume that Doku and Savinho are on the wings.
Here we go. You're assuming. However, this is Pep Guardiola. In Cherki's first game, he played him in the false 9. So what are we saying? Savinho false 9. Marmoush is going to be wide left. Doku on the right. In fact, no. Doku's going to be playing in a pivot with Reinders, and Bernardo Silva's going to be false 9. I'll tell you what, we've got a lot off the bench. So we've got Foden, Cherki, Haaland, all off the bench. Bobb off the bench. I know because it's Bernardo, people are really going to be against the whole Bernardo ultimately starting in our midfield.
Oh my God.
but I honestly like the whole Bernardo Reinders, Rodri. I think it's very strong as a midfield. Very, very strong.
I do as well.
I want to see sometimes Bernardo maybe not playing that be replaced with Gonzalez? Absolutely. But this is the one thing I keep saying we have to remember is, like, straight away, Bernardo starting, boo. And I know you have put laughing faces, so I know you're joking. But the key to this is Bernardo starting alongside Kovacic and Gundogan and Kevin De Bruyne, is very different to Bernardo starting alongside Rodri and Reinders, right? It's no longer Unks FC. You've got one player that's 30 years old. I mean, Rodri's only 1 year younger, to be fair. So,
yeah, I get it. I think we all get it at this point. I don't think it's that the vast majority of City fans don't like Bernardo. It's more so that they're concerned that him being captain, him staying here, is going to take away minutes from younger players who they want to see more. And that's perfectly valid, But like you just said, what we saw this season from so many of our players, it's a bit of an asterisk because we were so not good. So like if we talked about our wingers pretty extensively in our last episode about Doku and Savinho and their production, and the fact that Doku had 15 GA throughout the entire season, was second to the entire squad. Theoretically speaking, if that ran Savinho at 12 total throughout the season is their bottom line in our shittiest season in nearly 2 decades or however long it's been, and you upgrade, you spend 500 million or whatever in 2 windows to get the team better. And the team is rejuvenated, more motivated. You'd think that they would improve a little bit. And when it comes to Bernardo, to his detriment, sometimes runs his ass off to a point where you kind of just don't really know why he's running so much. He's kind of everywhere, And I think that him, like you said, being in a more solidified midfield, a more capable midfield with better, more capable players around him, will enable him to be more of the Bernardo that we know and love and are familiar with. And also, he won't have to do as much as he felt like he had to do.
Let me ask you a question, because this seems to... What is the Bernardo that you know and love? Because I think I differ.
I think that the effort is one thing, but I think that Bernardo is really underrated as an attacking player in general. The chances he creates, the balls he plays. I every single game, I feel like I'm hyper fixated on players that people talk badly about because I want to see why people are so against them, you know. And
Yeah.
when I see Bernardo, I see effort. I see a player that's in the right position most of the times, and I see a player that's played out of position because the squad isn't strong enough to put him in a strong position, you know. So I think that when I think of the Bernardo that I know and love, I would like to see him play with more freedom as an attacking player.
Is it this Bernardo?
Is it this Bernardo?
Below. Comment below.
Oh, I mean, that would be really cool if he could do that too.
See, I hear that, and I love that Bernardo. Don't get me wrong, right? I do think that Bernardo misses Kyle Walker, and I think that Bernardo also misses Riyad Mahrez so much, right? Because I think Riyad Mahrez seemed to unlock that Bernardo. But, and this is not a recency thing, the Bernardo that I love was a Bernardo that put in a performance against Liverpool alongside Fernandinho about 5 seasons ago, where it was just it was an 8-roll alongside Fernandinho and just cleaning up the whole of. And by the way, this was a Wijnaldum, Henderson, and who was the other? And Fabinho midfield, and completely dominating them. So this is and I think this is where, when you look at Bernardo, you think, do you know what? This is why Pep loves Bernardo, because we're saying some of you love the Bernardo that's putting in amazing forward performances against Real Madrid, and then I'm going back to the Bernardo of years ago that was putting in a performance as a kind of like a pivot with Fernandinho and mopping everything up. And I think when you're actually looking at a player that's doing that can do both those roles, you're looking at an elite player, and that's why I think Pep keeps him, because whatever and even this season, you know, when he was dropping back, almost playing as a centre back at times. That's why Pep loves him. I want him to. I've never wanted a player to succeed as captain as much as I want Bernardo to succeed, because I love him. Let it be known. Last season, maybe not so, but until last season, Bernardo was my favourite City player. I just think.
Let me ask you a question. In your opinion, what would be qualified as being a successful captain versus a failure?
Very good question. Amazing question. Right, so for me, there is nothing that anyone can say about Gundogan. The proof is in the pudding. Gundogan was an amazing captain. We did a treble. It's as simple as that, right? Whether Gundogan was maybe as vocal in interviews as Vincent Kompany, definitely not, right? But he seemed to lead the troops somehow. And with Bernardo, what I would say is, I'm saying with Fernandinho, to be fair. Fernandinho was a very quiet captain, as far as you never see him screaming and shouting too much. What I want is a captain also that conducts himself correctly and says the right things when he does go in front of the camera. For me, maybe Ruben Dias last season, when I heard him talk about, I can't believe this team's playing a low block against us. It kind of tells me, like, are you coming up with excuses here? And for me, that's like, I've always said, when Arsenal fans talk about injuries, they talk about refs' decisions, I always say, don't talk about him. Get the job done, then you won't need to talk about him. If you're talking about reasons, not excuses, reasons, you haven't done enough to get the job done. And when Diaz did that, I thought, I don't think Bernardo would say that. I think Bernardo would come out and say, do you know what? We expect more. It wasn't good enough. And at times, I like that. I like someone that's very open speaking. And also, of course, I don't want a Kyle Walker that in the middle of a flipping title charge is doing interviews with Rio Ferdinand ever. And
the whole, like, you know, I would give up one of my Premier League titles for a ball. That really rubbed people the wrong way, you know?
Do you know what? I've stuck up for Kyle Walker so many times, and obviously, probably with me being English, that probably is slightly it, and me getting the English culture a little bit more. But he's done and said too many things at times where it's just like honestly, that season when he was captain and he started it was like February or March time, and he's doing interviews twice a week with Rio Ferdinand. I just think, read the fucking room, bro. That is a Manchester United legend. You should be knuckling down and being a captain. You're fucking off and doing interviews with Rio Ferdinand. Save that for when you've retired. Like, you don't do that for me. But
Yeah,
we've been
I
blessed
get what
with
you mean.
captains, though. We have been blessed with a lot of good captains.
Yeah, and I think that counts for something when it comes to Bernardo. You know, he's been in the room with some of the best captains of the past decade. You know, at City. And I feel like the only thing that people, you know, I think is valid of the criticism of him being captain or whatnot is just the fact that maybe Pep will play him more than he probably should, and I think that's fair. You know?
I think that's fair as well because, so for me, anyone talking about selling Bernardo, I think it's mad, right?
Yeah, it's crazy.
But I do get that out of the older lot, some of them need to go. We can't keep them all. And I do understand if Bernardo this season is playing every game, I'm a bit baffled by that. But
yeah, that's crazy.
It is fair to say that, you know, Fernandinho's last season, he was captain and he didn't play every game. So, but like for me, what's your take on Nico Gonzalez actually?
Oh man, dude, I can go on about this forever. I don't have a take, and I feel like it's ridiculous. Sometimes you don't need a take about every fucking player, you know? Like it's like everyone's like, "Oh my god, he's a panic buyer, this or that." It's like, dude, okay. For the past year, we cried and cried about, you know, there's no depth. We don't have a Rodri backup. So we start bringing players that can be depth. We bring in a Rodri backup, and then now we bring in an 8. And people are like, what is the point of having Nico Gonzalez? And I was like, so everything that everybody has complained about for the past year is not valid anymore. First of all, Nico Gonzalez is Rodri's backup, and he's the rotational 8. So he's also Reinders' backup. You know, in an ideal world, we can bring in maybe another 8 and let someone like Gundogan and let someone like Kovacic go. But realistically speaking, I don't really think we're gonna do that because Kovacic is hurt. But
although we were saying the Turkish window might close a bit later, so we might be able to get Kovacic out the door. Maybe.
Yeah, that's whatever works, you know. But in terms of Nico, like Nico is 23. He is in that bracket of younger players that came in January with like a high. The only established player we signed in January that should be starting regularly and playing regularly is Marmoush. Period.
I said this yesterday when someone, I think it was Kels who I was doing a show with, and she said, you know, that what has Nico Gonzalez done wrong? And I said, hold on. If we look at the players we signed in January, right? We signed Kuzanov, we signed Gonzalez, we signed Hayes, and we signed Marmoush, right? Only one of them got all of them got actually game time, yeah? But only one of them got what the fan base seemed to be happy with as enough game time. But if we're saying what did Gonzalez do wrong, then we have to say all 3 of them. And it's not what they've done wrong. It's that they have to get used to this system, right? You can't just throw them in, especially when you're battling out for Champions League place. You have to be careful with it. I think that it's very easy, right? If someone say to me right now, this season, Rodri will be fit all season, you can play him every game, right? Then that gives us a bit more of a headache, right? And it makes us go, okay, well, what is the partnerships alongside Rodri? But the fact of the matter is, Rodri won't be playing every single game, right? We will not allow that to happen. And then at that point, you start thinking, okay, well, we struggled to get a Rodri replacement, but if you look at a pivot or even a midfield 3 of, say, Gonzalez, Reinders, Bernardo, that midfield can then cover it very nicely, right? And I think that's where Gonzalez comes in. The Gonzalez alongside another 8 makes, Reinders as an example, makes a perfect pivot that can then do the Rodri role.
Yeah. These combinations that we can come up with you know, all of our midfielders now that's what we want.
Yeah.
You know, like there was a point where we were choosing between David Silva and Kevin De Bruyne and Yaya Toure, and you know, like if you're talking about a Guardiola midfield, it's like this idea that if someone doesn't play every game, or there's like an agenda or like some sort of conspiracy theory behind. You remember what people were saying about Kusanov and the shampoo, or like. It's like people need to relax, man.
I feel like AI. I blame him.
Yeah, I mean, I get it to a certain degree, but I feel like our fan base has a tendency to work themselves up into a frenzy over these nonsensical and non-existent scenarios in their own heads. Like, go out, touch some grass, watch the game. It's not the fucking end of the world if Nico Gonzalez doesn't play every game. He's 23. This guy playing for Porto, he played way up forward. So for him to have to learn and play as a Guardiola 6 is a huge learning curve. You saw Rodri struggle with it. And the same people that are criticizing Nico Gonzalez now were the same people who were saying Rodri was not good enough. Period. And like, Rodri is still here. We just signed another 8. So if you think that Nico Gonzalez is a 6 or an 8, regardless, there are 2 players ahead of him. And to me, I give the club, I give Hugo, I give Pep a lot of credit for being proactive about bringing in depth instead of waiting until a disaster fucking happens again.
Yeah.
Like, what are we complaining about?
No,
I don't understand.
I think the whole Gonzalez thing is, and like people will, in fact, this morning on the show, someone mentioned that they've seen 1 or 2 bozo-ish moments from Gonzalez, but I just said, you saw that from Rodri, right? I actually remember the season after we got Rodri, or it might maybe have been 2 seasons after we got Rodri, Chelsea signed, is it Sal from Atletico?
Sal Niguez, yeah.
Yeah. And he came in and straight away, Chelsea fans were kind of, oh, no, he's not good enough. And I said, hold on. He is playing one of the most difficult positions to transition from La Liga to the Premier League in, right? Because that position right there, you receive the ball facing your own goal a lot with your back to the rest of the pitch. And you do have more time in La Liga. So you think you've got X amount of time to turn around, look up and find a pass. In the Premier League, you don't. By the time you swiveled, someone's taken the ball off of you. And I said, I've seen it with Rodri. I've seen it with many other players that have come from La Liga. Give him time. They didn't give him time. He went back. But I think that's one of the things with Gonzalez, that you need to give him a bit of time, like, because he has got to get up to pace with this league. And it is fair to say as well, firstly, he's not a 6 like Rodri was. He's an 8. But secondly, he's also not Rodri.
No, definitely not. And at the same time, if you look at, I'm looking at matches played and the starts, right, for all of our players.
Yeah.
The only player that played more games and had more starts than Nico Gonzalez out of all the January signings was Marmoush.
Exactly.
Everyone else, Nico had 16 matches played, 11 starts. The second highest is Kusanov with 9 matches played and 8 starts. So he had significantly more. He had 7 more matches played than Kusanov. And the rest of them, Vitor Heiss, Echeverri, you know, they barely played.
Yeah.
So
facts.
I think we need to be patient. We need to understand. And I feel like City fans in general are smart enough to understand kind of the natural progression of things, and knowing who our manager is, knowing how he prioritizes 6th position, knowing how anal he was about playing Rodri every fucking match because he didn't trust anyone else. And you all of a sudden want to throw this kid who doesn't even, like, all I'm saying is be patient. He'll be fine. Or maybe he'll flame out and he'll be shitty in 2-3 years and we'll sell him. But right now, that's irrelevant is my point.
Yeah,
you know?
Big facts on that. And do you know what? That is the thing that we have to, that might happen, because I saw a stat once, it's something like 1 in 3 players, or it might have even been 1 in 4 players land, right? The rest, they fail at clubs, right? Players do fail at clubs. So, right, there is, let me have a quick look. There is 236 watching on YouTube, 731 across all platforms. Anyone that is watching on YouTube, please, please, please make sure you smash that like button. The likes are a little bit low today. They're on 123. If we can get them up to the 150 mark, and anyone that's watching on Twitter, shout out to you lot, or X, sorry, I'm always going to call it Twitter. If you want to come over and sub to the channel, greatly appreciated. Right, let's talk. In fact, no, let's quickly talk Ederson. You happy?
Oh, man, I'm super happy, man. I love Eddie. You know, the guy is, I think every City fan has a kind of a love-hate relationship with him at times. You know, we've won everything with him. We've seen what he can do when he's dialed in. We've also seen what he does when he's not so dialed in. You know, that's where everyone has issues. But if we can save that money, have a motivated Ederson, I'm all for it, man. That acclimation phase we keep talking about with new signings and, you know, the money and all the little, you know, variables that come with getting a new player, betting them in. It's like we don't have to worry about any of that.
Yeah, spot on. Especially with fullbacks, right? With fullbacks,
Yeah, and we have a clear number one need right now, and that's obviously right back. So let's splurge on that. They've been super economical and really smart with the spending.
You and Unknown 121 have took the words out of my mouth. I've been saying it from the minute we pulled out the Wirtz deal, went and got Cherki, even the fact we pulled out of Morgan Gibbs-White and went and got Reinders, right? However you want to look at it, the amount we were going to be spending compared to the amount we have spent has dropped so significantly. And that's why I think it went from us buying maybe a Wesley to us buying a Livramento. But I want us to keep that same damn energy, right? I am convinced that they will let him go. I am absolutely convinced from the interviews with Newcastle, where they say he's not for sale, but if we get an astronomical offer, to the interviews with him, where he's saying, I'm not speaking about it until after the Euros, the under-21s, right? Both of those are not no's. For me, it sounds mad. I don't want to be this, whatever it costs. I don't want to be a Chelsea fan and be saying, yep, go and spend whatever. But we've made some great savings this summer. If we go and, don't settle for a midfielder playing at right back. Don't settle for a cheaper right back. By the way, Livramento's been cooking for the under-21s as well. He's been absolutely cooking. Go and get him. I think Newcastle at the moment, from what Cass told me, they're preparing 3 bids for players as we speak, right? So they're spending their budget. They're going to need more money, right? Go and get it done by any means. This is a by any means one for me.
Yeah, I agree. I think unless they have, unless they, Hugo has some crazy card up his sleeve. It just makes too much sense, and I think to a certain degree, some of the City fans that I've spoken with are convinced that it's not going to happen because it's too obvious, and everybody in the world knows that we probably need a right back. Newcastle definitely knows we need a right back. They don't need to sell. They're also apparently, I've seen some rumors about Liverpool going for Isak. So if they're going to sell Isak for over 100 million, do they need to sell Livramento? Absolutely not. So it remains to be seen kind of what's going to happen. But this is why I think it's very prudent to start thinking about not only who we're bringing in, but who's going to leave, because that's going to say a lot. I was looking at this list.
Let's go with that. I know that was the next thing.
Yeah.
Shout out to Formidable Centurion saying, make Steve Black a mod. Thank you, Daps. I am about to this very second. But yeah, you wanted to speak on it. It's definitely a hot topic. So I want to hear who you want to. I want to hear who you think should go.
Oh man, it's a little bit more complicated than who I want to. I don't really, other than like the old guys and maybe like a McAtee, Calvin Phillips. I want us to kind of clean house. But in terms of like who I think is gonna go, so Bailey Wynn, he runs Sky Blue Times. He posted something. He posted a list. Kevin De Bruyne is obviously gone. Scott Carson is obviously gone. Kyle Walker is 99% gone. I would probably say 100%. James McAtee isn't at the Club World Cup, so I would assume that he's gone. Calvin Phillips, I don't really know what his deal is, but his contract is until 2028, so we might still be stuck with him.
I think he'll go. I think
I think they'll try, but like who's gonna take that deal?
Do you know what? I honestly do think with him, we might have to write it off at this point.
Yeah, that's fair.
I'll be honest with you. Pep always spoke about how much of a nice person he was, right? Based on him being a nice person, just free the man. Free the man from the squad and let him go, man. Like, he was a nice guy, innit? So just free him, because
that's pretty funny.
we can't, sorry, I don't want to hear his name for another season, because he's the one person that I really can't hold back on. Like,
okay, that's fair.
Do you know what it is? Do you know why I really don't hold back on Calvin Phillips? Because for me, he shot himself in the foot. Like when we signed him and he was injured, right? I understand that. Injuries happen, right? He managed to get fit just in time to go to the World Cup, right? Okay, cool. No problem. But he didn't start much in the World Cup. Didn't touch grass much at all. Rodri did, right? Now, we knew that Calvin Phillips' job was to be Rodri cover when Rodri needed cover. When they returned from the World Cup, my man was overweight, right? And so Rodri had to start again. For me, I'm sorry, but that's on you, bro. Like, I get the injuries before, but you got fit for the World Cup, come back fresh, ready to go, knowing there's your chance. You didn't. For me, that's just inexcusable. So he's the one player where I'm like, sure, he's a nice guy, but he liked the buffet as well, so he has to go.
I hear you.
And where he goes, someone said to me earlier, Birmingham, apparently, because they've got a bit of money. So
yeah. I heard Leeds might be interested as well.
But the only thing is, if Leeds could afford him, because apparently Birmingham, I mean, it sounds a bit mad because Leeds are in the Premier League, but Birmingham have just been bought out, haven't they? So you've covered McAtee, you've covered Phillips, you've covered Carson, De Bruyne.
So let me just go down this list. So De Bruyne, Carson, Walker, McAtee, Phillips. Let's say that's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 outgoings, right? And then the next on that list, 2027, Jack Grealish. Do you think he's gone?
Yeah, I do.
Okay, so let's say Jack is out the window
as well. I think he'll have options.
I think so as well. Gundogan, I think he's going to leave. I think he's going to Turkey. John Stones, contract until 2026. Homegrown option. 1 year left on his contract. What do you think?
For me, he's one that I've accepted. However much I love him, he's probably one that, because we've got 7 centre-backs, I'd be happy to see, well, not happy, but I'd accept to see him go. But from what he's said, he's happy to stay. And so...
They all are, aren't they? Pep said, yes, people are going to leave, and all the unks were like, not me.
They are. The thing is, I think... What makes it a little bit more interesting, and I'd love to be a fly on a wall and hear the conversations some players are having with their agents, is the Club World Cup. Because sorry, not the Club World Cup, sorry, the World Cup, right? Because, so Grealish, for example, this is probably going to be his last World Cup. If he goes and gets game time, regular game time, there's still a chance he could be on a plane to the World Cup, right? So he would probably be pushing for a move. Now, as an example, just one I'm going to throw out there, Akanji, right? Now, Akanji...
Who's next?
Right, so Akanji, even if he doesn't play much for City, I still think he will be on that plane for Switzerland because he's nailed on as a centre-back for Switzerland.
He's probably their best defender other than like the guy who plays for Fabian, whatever his name is, the guy who plays for Newcastle.
Akanji was unreal for them in the Euros, absolutely. Yeah. So with John Stones, that's an interesting one because I personally think if John Stones stays fit, he's probably still a starter for England because it's definitely on the plane at very least. Like I can't really think of many players better than John Stones for England, but I don't know. John Stones is a really interesting one because
that's complicated.
Yeah, the wage is. I understand. Listen, if I was on nearly 300 grand a week, and someone said a year to go, and you go on a free, and then you get a bumper,
like, I'll stay.
I mean, I'm going. Yeah, do you know what? I'll hold bench for a season.
Let me ask you a question. All right, so Stones is one. We discussed Akanji. So these are the last three that I was most kind of torn about: Kovacic, Rico, and Mateus Nunes.
Okay. So
I see a world in which Kovacic goes, we let Nunes go, and we loan Rico Lewis out.
Right. So let me start with Kovacic. Although for me, Kovacic, I know he gets a lot of hate. For me, Kovacic has been an absolutely brilliant signing. I think Kovacic last season was probably for me, second best player. The season before, he was one of our better players as well. So I think Kovacic
great signing.
Got so much for the price as well. I think he's been quality. However, with the players we're bringing in, and the wage and all of that, I would say before the injury, he was one that we certainly were saying time for him to move on. Right now, the interesting thing with him is I still think because there was interest in him from Turkey. Turkey's transfer window apparently shuts later, so I wouldn't rule out Kovacic going. So that's him. Nunes and Rico. One of them you have to keep even if we bring in a right back, you have to keep one of them as right back cover.
What about Akanji?
Yeah, true.
Because we have a surplus of center backs. If we keep Stones,
true.
We keep Ake, we keep Heiss,
true.
We keep Kusanov. We have more than enough center backs.
That's valid. So one thing I heard on Nunes is that Nunes, however much he's done the job at right back, he's still quite keen to play in his natural position. Now, again, with the World Cup, that might be why, because he won't be playing at right back for Portugal, right? But he probably still thinks there's a chance he could get in that position in midfield. I wanted to loan Rico out last summer. I wanted Rico. I felt like Rico at this point, and I'll be honest with you, watching the first game and seeing Rico start right back, it frustrates me again. I don't want to see Rico as a right back or a left back. I like Rico Lewis. I think Rico Lewis is a very effective midfielder. But in the pecking order, as a midfielder at this club at the moment, he's low down.
That's what I'm saying. Yeah, and I just feel like he's at a very unique stage in his career where he's won everything at the age of 20. And that's the all thing of a sudden,
you forget 20, right? I think there's hard things, because I've said this before, right? If we look at this squad right now, with Rico Lewis is one of the players that knows Pep's system the best, right? And it's mad at the age of 20, but it's a fact, right? He knows Pep's system very well. And again, he can play multiple positions. But I want to see, and someone thought that I was really hating on Rico Lewis by saying, I don't want to see him as a fullback at Man City anymore.
No, it's not hate. That's totally valid.
I love him in the final third. I think he's very good in the final third. However, would I start Rico Lewis over Foden, Marmoush, Doku, Savio, Cherki, Gonzalez or Reinders in the final third? No. But I do want to see just how good he could be. And that is where alone comes into it.
Exactly.
But again, and I said this last summer, if we were to loan him, it would be to a club that plays a specific type of football. And it would also be in the contract, you're not going to play him as a fullback, right? We're loaning you him to see him as a midfielder.
Yeah, let me ask you a question. So now there's another conundrum of Nico O'Reilly. Now that we signed a left back, Nico O'Reilly has exploded onto the scene, burst out onto the scene per se. And I think a lot of people want to see Nico O'Reilly play in midfield.
Yep.
Yeah, he has the build for it too. He's a lefty. He kind of fits.
He's shown he's more physical than Rico already because
exactly. So. Now that this happened, Rico is being pressed from both sides. He's 20. He's won everything. He knows the system. He's not a right back. He's not one of the top 6 options in midfield. And then you have another academy player that's pushing him, that really broke out and has the physical makeup to play left back, to play in midfield. So Rico is kind of in the middle. And I feel like if I'm him and I'm his agent, I have to have a very honest conversation about, at this point, people talk about, Kev is gone, so Phil has the chance to step up. And that's all, that's all is what it is. But when it comes to Rico, he's in a similar position where all these players have moved on. And now it's like, are you going to have this chance, or is it just going to be another year or even less play time for you? And he needs to do what's best for him.
Yeah.
And it's tough.
This is my whole thing, right? And on Rico Lewis, that and even Nico O'Reilly, that if you want to be, because ultimately, right, let's stick on Rico Lewis. Rico Lewis, if you stay in City by a right back, you are going to probably be 3rd choice right back, possibly even 4th choice with Akanji.
Yeah.
Alternatively, if you see yourself as a midfielder, there's a good chance you're going to be like 6th choice as an 8 or
if that.
And that's where I'm kind of like, but let me be clear. I still don't feel we've seen enough of him to know, because he is only 20 years old. Let's remember, just because he's been about for 3 or 4 years, he's still only 20 years old, right? Mm-hmm. So That's where I think him going somewhere else and seeing him actually a Brighton as an example, or something like that, right? A move to a level where he's going to play in a team that plays good football in a proper role that suits him. Now, one thing I have, again, been told today is that, and I'm glad he's done this, because he seems like someone that just he's a City fan, he's loving the journey, he's loving being at City, he's learning a lot under Pep, right? But at some point, when is Rico going to look after his own development and actually go, do you know what? Apparently, he said after the Club World Cup, he does want to have a conversation about what the plans are with him. And I'm happy with that. I think alone, you're spot on with the loan. Spot on with the loan.
Yeah. It's the same situation with Oscar Bobb, too, to a certain degree. You know, Oscar Bobb, he had his chance to break out this year, but, you know, to no fault of his own, he got injured. He was out the entire year when it was supposed to be a couple of months. And then now we brought in Cherki. We might bring in another winger, depending on who leaves. And like Oscar Bobb, we don't really know if he's a winger long term. Some people think he's a 10. Our young guys, as much as I love competitiveness, I think I've realized that, you know, outside of Foden, all the other young guys on our squad have a battle on their hands, and
they have to think about things. And this is where I do think, like, sure, with some people, I think there's loans, and it's like, you know what, right? If we loaned out Calvin Phillips right now, it's not because we want to see what he can offer before we bring him back. It's because we don't want him on the books, right? We want someone else to pay his wage. We don't want him around the squad. Same with Jack Grealish. Whereas with, whether it be Echeverri, whether it be Juma Bar, whether it be Rico Lewis, or whether it be, and a prime example is as well, by the way, if we loaned out McAtee now, then that tells me we don't want him anymore. We just haven't got a sale for him because we've loaned him out before. We've seen what he's about. We've brought him back. He hasn't been good enough. But with your Ricos, your O'Reillys, your Bobbs, your Echeverris, and your Juma Bars, and maybe even your Vitor Hayes as well, a loan shouldn't always be seen as a bad thing, right? Because if Pep wanted him gone, like I've been told, Pep doesn't want to sell Bobb, but he does worry if he's going to get enough game time this season. Now, Bobb repeatedly seems to keep coming out and saying, I know where I'm going to be next season, and it's at City. I like that confidence, right?
Yeah.
I like that confidence because it makes me think, okay, this guy really does back himself. But no, look, after the Club World Cup, we'll probably start. In fact, no, I think on Monday, is Monday the 1st? I think it is. Once the first hits, we're probably then going to start seeing movement from other clubs because at the moment, the Premier League seems very static. New financial year coming from the 1st of July. I think from that point, the minute one or two signings get made anywhere in the Premier League, you'll see a dominoes effect, and then you'll start seeing moves for the likes of your Grealish, and then we can start to see what's really going to happen. I just want to put this up as well, people. The team did come out a little bit earlier, but I'm going to share it again. Few surprises. I think a few people seem a little bit surprised about Akanji starting, but
why?
Exactly. I think with the fact that
why?
with the fact that Vardy got a knock last game, I think it does make sense. Maybe people deep down wanted to see Diaz Kuzanov, Diaz Vitor Hayes, but look, I said this earlier. So far, we've earned 36 million off of this Club World Cup. Maybe Pep's telling us something. He's going to stick to the people that he trusts.
Do you know what the implications of like the goal differential and the results of this game is?
Massive.
On the table?
Yeah. Fuck me, massive.
Okay, so this is like a very important game for us. Yeah. If that's the case, I don't think we should be surprised that he's going with Diaz and Akanji.
No. Apparently Pep's never lost the Club World Cup, by the way. Never lost the Club World Cup.
Yeah, I wouldn't. I'm not surprised. Then Akanji against Al Ain. I don't know if that's how you say it. Al Ain. He was really good. Yeah. You know. So I like the lineup, man.
I like that. I like the midfield a lot. Bit weary, of course. We're going to be on Rodri watch. Bit weary about Rodri starting, but Rodri, Bernardo, Reinders, I think that's a very, very, very solid midfield. It's a type of midfield. I think at some points this season, we'll maybe see whether it be a Rodri Reinders pivot, a Rodri Bernardo pivot, a Rodri Gonzalez pivot, and then maybe a Cherki, Foden, Haaland, Doku, Savio, or something like that. Something a bit more attacking. But Juventus are not a Mickey Mouse club. They're the type of club that you do have to play 2 8s and a 6 as such. Surprised me a little bit to see Marmoush, Savio, and Doku. However, correct me if I'm wrong, at the back end of the season, that front three was very fluid and worked well together.
Yep. It works.
It does, doesn't it? Yeah. Marmoush, just play, bro. If I see Marmoush taking up positions on the left or right and Doku or Savio going through the middle, I'm going to be very fucking frustrated. But it probably will happen, to be fair.
I know, that's why I'm laughing.
This is the thing, bro. It will happen. But what we need to look forward to is when it gets to maybe about the 55th minute and you see Haaland, Cherki, and Foden coming on the pitch. That will be exciting. I'm looking forward to seeing that. But yeah, right. Anything else we haven't touched on?
No, that's pretty much it. I think there was a comment about what was it? There was someone said Rico might end up turning into another Palmer for another club.
I had someone in the comments saying this, and I've had the same about McAtee. We need to get over this PTSD of
yeah. To a certain degree, I don't really have PTSD either, but I just think from the player's standpoint, it's like that allure of, Phil stayed, he bided his time, he became player of the season, but that's not going to happen for every single one of our players. And for the ones that like Rico, Bob, they know Cole, they were all part of the same class. From the CFA. So if they're seeing that and they're looking at, what their opportunities are in front of them, and then Pep tells someone like Oscar, like, look, I don't really know how much I'm going to be able to play you. He gives Cole a call and he said, what was the decision making around that process? He's like, maybe if I go to Newcastle, maybe if I go to, I don't know, I'm not going to name any other clubs, but just like Cole decided to take a chance on himself, I can see a world when that happens, and I don't think any City fan can be upset at the club or at the player for making that decision.
It's a frustrating one, right?
Isn't it?
We can't keep hold of every single academy prospect because we think it might be another Cole Palmer. I've said this earlier, right? If honestly, people want us to keep hold of Rico, keep hold of McAtee, keep hold of Bob, keep hold of some of the things I see with academy players, right? No problem. We can do that, right? But if we do that, then lower your expectations on what we're winning, okay? Because I've asked for examples of this before, and the one that people come up with is class of 92 Man United. Well, that was class of 1992. Right? We are 30 years on from there. The Premier League has changed massively and no one's done it since, right? I get it. I wanted Cole Palmer to stay so badly. I was the biggest Cole Palmer fan, but he left. And right now, in fact, he left. And in his first season, he absolutely cooked for Chelsea. But guess what also happened in his first season? We won the league, right? So which one do you want? We can go to being a straight up academy team, right? Yeah. But we won't be competing for league titles. So, and furthermore, out of these players, not every single one that leaves us is going to turn to Cole Palmer. Okay, like, how's Sancho doing? Tell me.
He fell off kind of hard,
And there's a lot more. There's a lot more. Our academy doors are swinging all the times. So to always mention Cole Palmer is, and by the way, Cole Palmer left because he wanted to go. Cole Palmer, I've said this a million times, Cole Palmer wanted to go to Germany. He did not want to stay at Manchester City. Simple as that. So, but anyway, listen, the game is going to start in 45 minutes. Now, I am doing a watch along. I'm going to share the link. It's not on YouTube. Myself and Cass, who's a rag, by the way, we do our watch-alongs on Big Up. We're going to be over there from about 7:40. I'll put the link in the chat. If you want to, it's very easy to subscribe and do all the comments and everything like that. If you want to head over there and watch us from about 7:40, great. Sheikh, thank you for joining me, and congratulations on having the little man at home. You need to wake him up in about 30 minutes if he's not awake, because there's a game of football he needs to watch, okay?
He needs to eat too, so I appreciate your reminder.
But don't overstimulate him, or it's going to be a nightmare getting him to sleep. If it gets to extra time, say, sorry, little man, you can't watch extra time. Too much. Bro, that green and players running around in different shirts.
It's a lot.
It's a lot.
Yeah.
Anything you need to shout out?
No, man. I'm just glad we got to catch up. I hope you're feeling better off the hay fever, and everyone that joins. Yeah, we love you guys. Talk to you guys soon.
And I will be back tomorrow morning at 10:30 with Big Steve to do our match reaction on the game. Until then, everyone enjoy the game, and come on, City. I want a 2-goal win.
Let's go.
Offside. Really? Yeah. It was a VAR and that offside. The action was offside.
Genuinely, that's, I was unaware of that. We hadn't been told that at all.
Your seats were not good.